Right, shalom, shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Waharakah Kodash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways, teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. Right, it's 1:44 p.m. This lesson is gonna be idolatry and occultism is the root of feminism. Because feminism is one of those major doctrines that's permeated its way through the world, even among the nation of Israel. All right, it's even you got certain guys that's calling themselves Israelites that are afflicted with the tenets of feminism, and through feminism being occultic and idolatrous in nature, they're using it to also push child sacrifice, and all these things that have always been associated with idols, wickedness, and evil. And that's what you're going to understand, that they package feminism up as something good because they use words which to most people would mean goodness, like words like liberty. Like, who can argue against liberty, right? Oh, liberty. But liberty can be in righteousness, and liberty can be in wickedness. If I was at liberty to F your wife, that would be wickedness, wouldn't it? So all liberty isn't good, and all liberty isn't bad. It depends on the application. But they use these demonic, they use sleight of hand and witchcraft to confuse the people, like choice. Oh yeah, choice, pro-choice, because who wouldn't want choice? Again, it's a manipulation. But at the end of the day, because the root of feminism is occultism and idolatry, the product is always going to be death. The product is always going to be evil, and that's what our people got to understand. So in this video, what I'm going to do is show you the root of this thing, because people kind of like, they don't understand that really ultimately this whole feminist movement, abortion movement, all these so-called progressive movements of this world came from a bunch of witches and warlocks. Transgenderism, all of that, transhumanism, all of it comes from a group of literal witches and warlocks and soothsayers. That's exactly what they are. All right. Now, if you want to side with those people, then that's on you. Then you already know where you're heading: destruction. So that being said, recently you've had this whole situation that popped up with um, the leaked result from the court regarding Roe versus Wade, right? And they're gonna overturn Roe versus Wade, and you should already know about the controversy, and you see all these demons out there activated, protesting. Right, you got the black woman out there literally protesting to kill babies. That's where we at right now. That's why I'm saying this is a very heathenistic, evil, and demonic society. Let's play this. And I'm here to say we will not go backwards. We will not. You have gone backwards. You've backslidden, because child sacrifice is going backwards. See, this whole abortion thing is nothing more than a child sacrifice by another name. All right, and if you notice here in the background, they say abortion is healthcare. Healthcare provide it's a lot of witchcraft and rituals now are being done under the guise of healthcare. A lot of witchcraft is done under the guise of healthcare and the medical industry. Case in point, I'll give you an example of them witches and warlocks. If you see this individual right here, right, Baphomet, if you look in his lap, proceeding from his groin area, you'll notice the caduceus. Right? Now, what is the symbol of the medical industry? The caduceus. Because the chief people behind the pharmaceutical and the medical industry are witches and warlocks. This is why they have used this symbol to represent them. Now, that's not saying that, that there is no healing going on in the medical industry, because if you break your leg, they'll take care of you. If you break your leg and you go to the hospital, they'll put your bones back together. However, there's a lot of witchcraft being performed. A lot of these pharmaceutical companies, these drugs they produce, nothing but witches' potions designed to keep you hooked, so that they can keep getting money out of you. And it's built in that these drugs actually kill a certain percentage of the people too, as a sacrifice. You also got these transgender treatments is done in the name of what? Healthcare, right? It's done in the name of medical care. Yeah. Well, what else do you see on Baphomet? Right? Transgenderism, androgynous. So you got to see that for what it is. There's a lot of witches. A lot of these doctors and nurses are witches and warlocks, and the other ones are serving that purpose. Some of them don't know, but that is what they're part of. They're part of a organization or an industry that ultimately serves Satan, right? And that's why their symbol is what it is, right? So just like abortion is not healthcare. Abortion is ritual sacrifice, but they're performing the witchcraft, the wizardry under the guise of healthcare. Okay.
Go back into those days when we used wire hangers. Not now, not ever.
New York Attorney General.
First of all, you shouldn't be using a wire hanger. You shouldn't be using anything. So that's a false argument. But
Letitia James whipped up a rally in Manhattan. She said the right to control a woman's body is a fundamental right.
The right to control a woman's body. Now, according to the Holy Bible, a woman's body is under the control of men, under the control of her father, and then when she becomes married, under the control of her husband. The Bible says, "He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession." So a woman is the possession of a man. That's why the scripture always says that a man takes a wife. Yeah? Let's get that. You see, that's what feminism is, turning everything upside down. It's undoing the natural order of things. All right? Sirach 36 and 24. It says, "He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest." Right? Because the woman was made for the man and not the man for a woman. Men and women are not equal. We coexist together, and we were meant to coexist together in love and righteousness, but men and women are not equal. And then even when you go into the scriptures, the roles of men and women are different. In terms of spirituality, the Lord is dealing with the men. When it comes to spiritual authority, we never had priestesses. We had prophetesses, which would be singers. They would sing songs. They would sing among the congregation. But if you look at the Levitical priesthood, it's all men. If you look at the priesthood of Aaron, that was passed on to his sons, not his daughters. Israel, we didn't have no priestesses. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There was a separation there in order. But this, if you look on the left-hand side has priestesses. They have the so-called divine femininity. And that's where you get feminism from. It all goes back to idolatry. It's not of the scriptures. It's not of the spirit of the Lord. It's witchcraft. The idea that a woman could be equal to a man. That's witchcraft. That's rebellion. That's evil. And nothing but evil comes of it. Case in point. They're using this feminism to drive these child sacrifices. And then guess what? They're talking about misogyny and all this crap. Here it is. You had a woman talking about misogyny kills while she's protesting to kill babies. And half the babies she's killing are women. That's how crazy this thing is. Hold on, I forgot to get the. Hold on, let me get my channel up. Get my comment boys up. Where's my channel? So okay, I forgot to get my comment board up. That's why even if you look at the pantheon of idols, there's always female gods. You understand? What's known as the divine femininity. All right. That's why people's talking about, oh, God is a woman and all this crap. Our knowledge, our wisdom is completely against that wickedness. That's wickedness, man. Right. Right. That's a good scripture right there. Isaiah 29:16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not. Right. Because or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he have no understanding. Right, because the Lord created women for a purpose, but they're trying to repurpose women according to their own will, and that's just not right. And that has led to what? Destruction of the family, destruction of lives, destruction of babies. Okay, so bun these people. I don't even want to hear them talking anymore because it's extremely offensive and disgusting. And it all goes back to this Roe versus Wade, and these were all warlocks. These guys that passed this Roe versus Wade, look at them all dressed in black after the order of Saturnalia. These guys were all witches and warlocks, man. They all are. You don't make it to that level in American society without being a witch or a wizard. That's just how it is. America was founded on witchcraft. You have to be a wizard or a witch in order to be up there. Nahum 3:4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms, idolatries of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. Right? These guys here were all wizards. Now, you don't have to believe me, but the founding fathers, they're all wizards. Right? Whether they come out or openly tell you or not, that's exactly what they were. I'll give you an example. The United States Capitol building, right? The laying of the cornerstone was a Masonic ritual, openly. And we know that Freemasonry, the inner workings of Freemasonry is occultism, idolatry, the Luciferian doctrine, the laying of the cornerstone of Washington, D.C. You can go research it. All these cities, they build them according to what? Occultism. Their companies are occultic in nature in terms of their symbologies and the names, like Nike. Nike is the name of the Greek goddess of victory. Do you think you think the people who named it Nike were ignorant of that fact? No, they were witches and they were wizards and they were channeling that spirit for their company. And then they put the tick of Saturn on there and they call it a tick. So everyone thinks it's a tick. It's not a tick. It's a ring of Saturn or of Satan. Yeah, the Nike symbol. Yeah. And it's one of the most successful companies in the world because it's backed by Satan. See, that's a ring of Saturn. Yeah. And Nike is the Greek goddess of victory. And we can go on and on and on, man. We could talk about the dollar with the all-seeing eye on there. I mean, we could go on and on and on. This all witchcraft, and these people who did these things, they weren't ignorant. Even though the average everyday person is ignorant to these things, the people who are doing it, they're not ignorant. They know exactly what they're doing. Another example, the Capitol building itself, where these witches and warlocks, they call senators meet. All these senators and all that, they're witches and warlocks. Remember, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton would have seances in the White House. Of course they do. Then you had over here in the UK, Blair Blair's wife was talking about how a light would consume her in number 10 and all this kind. It's, trust me, these people, they're not what they seem. They're all on the secretly, they're all witches and wizards, man. On a higher level. That's how you get up in this man's society. Let's look at the apotheosis of George Washington. I bring it out regularly, but this is something which is open. Yeah. Now, if you go to the Capitol building, which is where it's the seat of government for America, they have an image known as the apotheosis of Washington. And apotheosis means to deify. So they've actually deified George Washington in the building, and they have a pantheon of gods, different various like liberty. That's all liberty, the liberation, yeah, liberty, Minerva, all these different Roman and Greek gods. You got Poseidon, and these gods they've placed over various activities in America. So America is under a heavy vibration of idolatry. And you can go to the website. I ain't gonna go into it. I've been through it before. You can go and they actually explain to you who all these different gods that they venerate in the Capitol building, what area of American life these gods are over. Okay. So here it is. You thought that America was a Christian. Well, Christianity itself is filled with idolatry on the sly. That's why you got Christmas. That's why you got Easter. But it associates itself with the Bible, and the Bible is against all these things. So they hide behind that. Oh, we're Christian. We're not witches and warlocks. No, they're all witches and warlocks, man. Like you had your boy Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was a devout Catholic, but yet he was touching up all them boys and them young girls because they hide behind things, man. I mean, there's more examples we could bring out all day long. A lot of these buildings are obelisks, you know. You got Las Vegas, Sin City. They built a lot of these ancient things like the Eiffel Tower and all that. Oh, the Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty is a man in drag, and it is there we go. The Statue of Liberty is a man in drag. Yeah. And the sun symbol on the head. Yeah. The Statue of Liberty. Wicked, demonic. Yeah. Demonic in nature. And that also goes back to Baphomet, the light. Yeah. Luciferian in nature. Okay. So yeah, let me get this scripture here. This is Ephesians 5:9. It says, "For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth." Right? Feminism is not righteousness and it's not truth. The doctrine of feminism is a lie. Yeah, men were not created as equals with women. Men are over women. That's the truth. That is the way of life. And if you come into this truth, whether you're a man or a woman, you cannot come into it with the notions of feminism within your mind, whether you're a man or a woman, because you're not adhering to the truth. Yeah. Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, right? Feminism in any way, shape, or form is not acceptable unto Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And the problem is that this world has bombarded you with this ideology through the media, through the education system, through all these different various means. All right. So a lot of people have now become accustomed and comfortable with the ideology of feminism, even though it's destructive. So when you come into this truth and you start hearing something which is completely opposite, you might have a negative reaction. And that happens because you're not used to it. But you have to understand that that's the truth. That's what you have to accept. A lot of people try to come into this truth and don't cleanse themselves of the filthiness of this world and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. So you ain't supposed to basically agree or take partnership with these feminists in the world. You're supposed to reprove them, like, nah, you ain't right. Right? For it's a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light, and that's what you're gonna we're gonna make manifest, man. And they're showing themselves who they are, because they got all this energy when it comes to killing babies, and that shows you exactly where they come from. All right. Oh, okay, I see the elder. Hey, Shalom. The elder Malcolm from Chicago, man. Shalom. I'm gonna read his comment. It says most of the bridges in the parks in America all have obelisks as at interest of them. Most of the cemeteries, especially JOO-ish cemeteries, have obelisks in them, some 2 stories high as gravestones. Yeah, and they use that to channel energies. And another thing is they have these wars. These wars are basically sacrifices. So you'll find that most war memorials are also obelisks. Because these people are witches and warlocks, man. They believe in all forms of witchcraft, inscription. Because there's different types of witchcraft, and you could put them together. So you got inscription witchcraft, which is writing on paper. You got or carving into a thing, charagma. You got blood witchcraft. You got sex magic, and you can combine all these things together, and that's the knowledge that they hold, and they use it against the people every day, and even get people to partake in these rituals without even knowing it. But what I wanted to do, because this is going to be a very educational lesson in terms of showing you a few things. Let me get these presets real quick, and then we're going to play some clips, right? So I wanted to get Leviticus 20 and 20, 26 to 27. It says, and ye shall be holy unto me, for I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people that ye should be mine. Wow. A man also or woman that hath a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. So that ain't telling you to go grab up the nearest feminist or the nearest, and then just start stoning to death. But the point is that we were to shun all forms of idolatry and witchcraft from amongst us, both the witches and the wizards. Okay. And shun anything that comes from them. This is Deuteronomy 18 and 14. For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto the observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee so to do. So that we're not supposed to hearken unto these witches and these warlocks and their ideologies and their wisdoms. We have our own wisdom. We have our own power. We have prophets. We have the word of the Lord, and that's what we're supposed to take heed to. Proper wisdom, wherein is life, right? And what you're gonna find out is this feminism thing. It is not of the Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It's not of life. It's of idolatry, and it's of death, right? And that's what they hide from the people. So let me get the first clip here. That's me to get rid of that. I want to get some clips for you just to show you what's really going on. Why is my thing not refreshing?
It's been somewhat feminine.
Right. Let's speed this up a little bit. So this first clip I want to show you is called Why Witchcraft is Making a Comeback Among US Feminists. Now, what you really need to understand is it's not making a comeback. It's just coming out in the open. Witchcraft and feminism has always gone hand in hand. And I'm going to show you, but they're even now basically coming out in the open more and more with it. Like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, feminism, yeah, witches, warlocks, that's what it's all about. Yeah. So let's play this.
We have been fighting for.
Let me know if you can hear the sound properly.
Correctly. Witches are what men like Donald Trump are afraid of.
Witches. The word alone immediately conjures up certain images in our minds. But what does it really mean to be a witch today? Salem, Massachusetts, a place known for trying and executing accused witches, is now affectionately called Witch City. And it seems that a growing number of young women and some men are being drawn to a brand of witchcraft. And it's political.
I use the term witch to describe myself. I usually cite the acronym Woman in Total Control of Herself. I am the owner of House Witch.
Right. She said the acronym for witch is a woman in total control of herself. So do you see what's happening here? When they're promoting this strong woman, this independent woman, this feminist outlook which separates the woman from the man and from being under the man and having her go out there on her own as an equal. Do you see the root of this? She even said it. Woman in control of herself.
Home and healing in Salem, Massachusetts. I practice witchcraft. I pull tarot cards. I have crystals everywhere. I make shrines. I cast spells. I meditate. But it's sort of a political distinction, and I think it speaks to my radical feminism.
Both male and female witches.
So she's a witch and a radical feminist.
The craft under a longtime Salem witch and clairvoyant, Lorelei. You'll notice a significant difference in how the more traditional witches look and practice.
I'm what you call a natural witch. I started at about 12. My mother practiced. The thing about the new word feminist, it's a great thing, but it's something that we've been doing for years.
So she just said that this word feminist is a great thing, but it's something that they've been practicing for years, right? Real quick, let me see what the elder said here. The elder Malcolm said, had an Ishmaelite woman yesterday tell me she was a feminist and she also likes women and men. Yeah, because see, when you go into witchcraft and idolatry, it all starts fusing together, doesn't it? If you notice that a lot of these feminists, hardcore feminists, are also lesbians. It's funny that, and they're out there wanting to do abortions, but they're lesbians. And then they look all weird, they look androgynous, they look all messed up, looking dark, and you see them out there talking about LGBT now. Oh, LGBT laws. Oh, they're gonna, if they repeal Roe versus Wade, then they're gonna repeal the same-sex marriage, because all of that is part of a occultic and satanic agenda. Feminism, LGBTism, transgenderism, the rebus, it's all occultic in nature. It all goes back to a group of witches and wizards who are pushing these philosophies and this vibration out into the world and basically casting spells on people. Yeah. It says, and that she left her homeland so she could come here to America to practice it freely. Yeah, because America is a bastion of that witchcraft. But you see, what you're going to find out is even in the East, they practice these things, but they practice them hidden. The thing is, with the West, it's coming out more and more in the open, because guess what? What you find out is the philosophies of the West that they're going hard into came from the East. Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky. That's why I was watching a documentary the other day. I posted it, The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, and there's another one, The Shame of Patton. Them guys are over there doing some real madness. You know what I'm saying? But they just have a bigger, what you call, they hide it. But America's like just gone, you know, man, we ain't even feeling to hide it. We're gonna bring it all out in the open and let it run wild. So she told me that all witchcraft isn't bad and that there's some good witches, and this happened. Yeah, and that's another thing. And they push that on the children through shows like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and all these different, which it's going to show you they use popular culture, Charmed, and to try and basically get people to, oh, there's witches, there's good witches and there's bad witches. Like even in Marvel, you got the Scarlet Witch, you know, which Wonder, does the, you know, all that kind of stuff, man. Because the people that make these movies, they're all wizards and warlocks and witches. Hollywood is packed to the brim with witchcraft and wizardry. That's what it's literally all about, you know. But yeah. Yeah, Harry Potter.
The
Harry
younger
Potter is
generation,
a
we may
very
not be
good
as hardcore.
example.
I still want a gentleman to open the door for me. And can the man, may we always have romance, lust, and trust. So motivate. A spell basically is a prayer to the universe. We have chalices full of water. We have candles, something that represents the god, the goddess. Just like you pray and
See how she got all the she said the god and the goddess, because they have that duality, and then she got all the idols of Egypt on there. That's why these Egyptologists, man, we don't deal with them, because Egypt is wickedness, and the biggest Egyptologists is Esau Edom. These jakes think they're Egyptologists, bro. Aleister Crowley actually had a seance with Seth, or one of them. One of them Egyptian deities was rolling with Aleister Crowley. He wasn't dealing with these guys. The Egyptian demons are dealing with Esau. Yeah, Aleister Crowley was their prophet. How come them Egyptian deities weren't dealing with Polite? Nah, they were dealing with Aleister Crowley, man.
After the election, especially, you know, I think what the witch is good for is being a force of divine feminine power, and
Right, a
witches
force
are
of divine feminine power. Right, and this is the root behind feminism.
what men like Donald Trump are afraid of. So it's like this perfect symbol.
Around Erica's store has formed a coven made up of astrologists, Reiki masters, and healers, including Erica's fiancé,
Right,
Alyssa,
astrologists, all this kind of stuff.
who does Salem witch tours with a feminist focus.
Deep breath.
This isn't your grandmother's coven. It's youthful, light, and trendy.
It's trendy, of course it's trendy. All right, let's get rid of that now. Let's look at another clip right here. So what this video right here is called "The Secret Feminist History of Witches as Told by a Practicing Witch." So she's gonna come out and let you know, listen, feminism is their thing from day one. So let's listen to this. All right. In fact, before we get there, let's get the scripture, man, that we need to get before we go any further. Okay. Ain't no divine femininity and all this rubbish. Goddesses. Ain't no goddesses, man. Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man, the Heavenly Father. That's what we have. And they got a problem with that. There ain't no, like, you get these stupid, these Rastas talk about King Alpha and Queen Omega, because they're all, that whole Rastafarianism is also occultic, and it's all also witchcraft, and the mother goddess worship, right? Because even Christianity has the divine feminine, because they exalt Mary as the mother of God, or the queen of heaven. Yeah, that's that feminism, man. Okay. All right, this is first somebody got zapped. First Corinthians 11 and 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach, Yahushai, is God the Most High. There ain't no divine feminine in there. The woman is beneath the man in authority and in spirituality too. All right, and that's the natural order, and that's how it works, and that's how life is gonna go forward and be fruitful. That's happiness. That's joy. Okay. All right, let's play this clip. Oh yeah, First Timothy 2:11 says, "Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection." Yeah, that's what it is, and that's the natural order of life. Once everybody's playing their position and everything is in order, everything goes blessed. Okay, the man is in order, he's doing what he's meant to be doing, and the woman is in order, she doing what she's meant to be doing. Everything just flows. That is the way of life. That is the way of Yahweh Shai. That's what the Lord demands. But these guys want to bring in all this goofiness, man. Feminism is goofy. It's hella goofy. It's stupid. It causes death and chaos. All right. So I wanted to play this clip right here, "The Secret Feminist History of Witches as Told by a Practicing Witch." So you're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. Oh, don't get me started on Disney. Disney is like Walt Disney was a witch, one of them elite families, and Disney is nothing but witchcraft, man. And they've gotten worse as the years gone on, to the point where now they're turning all the villains into good guys, like Maleficent. Bro, it's mad. Disney's mad. Maleficent is a good person now. Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil, they turned her into a hero now in the movie Cruella in 2021. So they just don't give a damn no more. They're just coming out in the open with it. They just like, to hell with it, man. They're taking all the demonic characters and making them good, right? But Disney's always been wicked, and now Disney wants to push all that LGBT, because they're witches and warlocks. They're serving their father Satan, man. That's what they're there to do. But anyway, let's finish this clip.
My name is Kristen Soleil. I teach a class called Legacy of the Witch at the New School, which delves into the history of the witch through a feminist lens. If you want to talk about representation...
Yeah, look at that, man. What her book was called. So this whole women's liberation, which again, this whole women's liberation, slut shaming, and then it goes hand in hand. Look at the music industry, how demonic they are. What do they promote? Whoredom, all this stuff. Her book is called Witches, Sluts, Feminists. Yeah, this is conjuring the sex positive, and that goes into sex magic, Aleister Crowley, and then that leads into LGBT and even pedophilia. See, pedophilia and all that.
Into the history of the witch through a feminist lens. If you want to talk about representations of witches in popular culture over the past 500 years, you have to really talk about representations of women in popular culture and in culture at large over the past 500 years. So the witch hunts ended around the 1700s, in Europe at least, and in America. But of course the fear of witches continued, and at the same time they also morphed into kind of a joke, a horror story, something to scare kids with, to scare young women with. Don't walk this path, you may get into trouble with Satan or something. But it really wasn't until 1893 with Matilda Jocelyn Gage, an American suffragist. She wrote a book called Woman, Church and State, and it reframed the European witch hunts as actually a misogynistic attempt by the church and state to police female sexuality, women's bodies, women's reproductive function.
You hear that? You hear that? Women's bodies. What do they tell you? Oh, it's my body. Bro, this is so witches, man.
And that is, to my knowledge, the first time the word witch was used in a positive way. And the funny thing about her is that her son-in-law was L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And so he was inspired by her writing to conceive of the witch as not only evil, but also good.
So you see how it all comes in. The Wizard of Oz having a good witch and a bad witch. But there is no such thing as a good witch. But he put that in there because he was corrupted by that feminist witchcraft.
Good. So we have these polarities of the good witch and the bad witch, which then goes into, the MGM film and sets the stage for the way we view witches forever, pretty much.
I'll get you, my pretty.
The fairy godmother and all that garbage.
Dog too.
And then you have like I Married a Witch in the 40s, or lighthearted. There's like blonde witches, they're like glamorous, and Bell Book and Candle in the late 50s, and then Bewitched in early 60s coincides right when Betty Friedan's putting out The Feminine Mystique. So Bewitched is kind of, talking about the plight of the white middle-class housewife, just like Betty Friedan's book. And the women's liberation movement is sort of, bubbling on the surface in culture at the time. And Bewitched is also, I think a few episodes were written by self-professed feminist Barbara Avedon. So there's like some real like early feminist leanings in there. And, the way she uses magic is like the way early feminist thought could be conceived. Like, Samantha's husband Darren's really annoyed and always frustrated she's using this magical power. It's like something he can't access, he can't control, and it gives her agency. And even though, it's kind of like a fluffy, funny show, there are some like little radical currents in there that I think are picked up and expressed more explicitly in later films in the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc.
You're a big dumbhead. You're calling me names.
My favorite representations of the witch are pretty recent, actually. The Witch by Robert Eggers was a fantastic horror film that really used period lighting and period text to inform.
Right, that's it on that. Let's move on. And then I got another clip here. This guy goes in. So let's take time to listen to him. So, because in this clip, what he's basically going to show you is all these people that were instrumental in bringing about the feminist movement and the the women's liberation in New York. They were all people who were associated with Theosophy and Helena Blavatsky and all that occultic secret society witchy stuff. That's where it all comes from. So let's play this clip.
The American occult really became established in the firmament of this country probably between the 1690s and the late 1840s. And there were several very definite personalities and groups and events that made that possible. As I mentioned earlier, by the 1680s, 1690s, mystical groups began to flee Central Europe and come to America. If you flash forward to 1776, you not only have the Shakers organizing their first village outside of Albany, New York, but in the state of Rhode Island, there was a young woman named Jemima Wilkinson who had been caught up in the Baptist revival that we call the Great Awakening. And in fall of 1776, Jemima, who had grown up on a prosperous Quaker farm, took to her bed with a terrible fever, and she was slipping in and out of a coma, and her family was sure that she was going to die. And then one day, without any antecedent whatsoever, she leaped up from the bed, all red and ruddy and filled with this renewed energy, and announced to her shocked Quaker family that she would no longer be known as Jemima, that woman had died, and that the being standing before them would be known as the public universal friend. And she became, in a certain sense, the nation's first spirit channeler. By the early 1800s, that area of central New York State became known as the burned over district. It was a place that was considered burned over with the fires of religious passion. And that's where you start to see the first alternative religious culture developing in America and really in the modern world. The Iroquois Indians had occupied central New York State, but they were pushed off that land by the colonial government just after the War of Independence. So central New York was open to land settlement and speculation, and a whole wave of relatively liberal New Englanders began to flood into central New York State. And for about a generation or two, in the early to mid 1800s, the place produced most of the new religions that grew out of America. Mormonism, Seventh-day Adventism, it's where the Shakers spread. You had the first experiments, large experiments. In American utopianism, the Oneida community was located there. The place was a hotbed of political reform. The first women's rights conference was held in Seneca Falls, New York. It was also the birthplace of a movement that we call spiritualism, which involves seances and spirit raps and talking to the dead. And spiritualism just became the driving engine behind everything. Because as spiritualism grew in central New York State, and it started essentially in a little village called Hydesville outside the city of Rochester, where two teenage girls in 1848 told their Methodist household that the bangs and raps and noises that were being heard in their cabin were actually spirit raps. And the girls said, "We can reach to the beyond." And people believed them. They were hungry to believe them because Americans saw themselves as a people who were entitled to a kind of new dispensation from God. They used to refer to the country sometimes as the New Israel or the American Israel. They were expressing the most radical impulses of the Reformation, in which people believed that you could reach the beyond, you could reach the divine with no intermediary. You didn't need the man in robes. You could do it yourself. And as soon as people began to organize into seance circles and people began to identify themselves as trance mediums who could reach the beyond, it opened up a door for...
See that? So they started dealing with seances and all this. We saw witchcraft, man. But here, what happened?
Women to assume their first roles of religious leadership in the modern world. This really can't be overstated. Women had no clerical...
So through that witchcraft is how women started having roles of authority, man. Yeah.
Role anywhere in the Western world, period. When spiritualism dawned, suddenly women who wanted to engage in the civic and religious and political culture were becoming trance mediums. It is no accident that in this burned over district of upstate New York, you had the birth of spiritualism coinciding with the first conference for women's voting rights. The two were...
You hear that? So you see how the rise of this witchcraft and this spiritualism, this occultism, was synonymous with the rise in what? With these women's rights and voters and all this crap. Feminism.
Were branches coming out of the same tree. For about a generation in the 19th century, you could not find a voting rights activist, a suffragist activist, who hadn't spent some time at the seance table, and vice versa.
Did you hear what he just said? You couldn't find someone who was pushing all this feminism garbage who wasn't dealing with familiar spirits. Yeah, this is the root. So all these women that's running around with all these feminist ideologies that has been put into their brain don't understand that the root of all of this goes back to idolatry. It goes back to these soothsayers, these witches, and these warlocks who are channeling spirits and doing all this wickedness. That's where it literally comes from. It literally comes from witches and warlocks. But they're not going to come out and tell you that. They're going to make it look like, oh, it was just an activist. She wasn't an activist. She was a witch. Or he was just an activist. No, he was a wizard.
It's just absolutely grew out of one another. Once that social and spiritual opening was created for women in the form of spiritualism, suddenly ambitious women who wanted to participate in the culture had a kind of a voice. So this began a marriage between occult spirituality and reformist or radical politics that just roared through the country and really has never gone away.
You see what I'm saying? And then so you hear me always mention someone like Helena Blavatsky. Helena Blavatsky was like big in New York. That's the whole theosophy, and so many people went to her to learn from her. Politicians, actors, you name it. They were dealing with Helena Blavatsky. You had Annie Besant. You had Alice Bailey, who as a woman has written more books than any woman on the planet, right? These certain women, man, they was witches and warlocks, and they were all chief proponents of feminism as well.
The 1840s, some historians call that decade the Mad 40s. The 1840s was the pivotal moment in American life where an avant-garde spiritual culture began to grow and where a radical and reformist political culture began to grow. This was also bound up with ideologies that were coming over to America from Europe. Chief among them was the method called mesmerism, which we today call hypnotism. Americans were in love with mesmerism because it was something that you could do in your own home. You could mesmerize or hypnotize your aunt or your mother or your father, and people would go into these trance states, and you could introduce autosuggestion to them, or as some people saw it, you could cure them of illnesses, and sometimes people would reemerge from a trance state and report that they had some kind of out-of-body experience. They had traveled to other realms or to other planets or to the heavens. Cult ideologies, all these supernatural ideologies where people said they were in touch with the world beyond. They could see either into other realms or into the future, or they could serve as a spirit channel. They were confirming a very, very deep-seated hope that Americans had about themselves, and they served as a conduit for radically liberal religious and political ideas.
There you go. There you go. He broke it down. He broke it all the way down. Okay. And that's again, 1 Timothy 2:14. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. And it goes back. That's why the number one people who are falling for this garbage and then bring it back in among the people are these women, man, because they're intoxicated by the idea of power. They're intoxicated by it. You know, like I was speaking with the elder Yashawamba, and it's like Esau just has to give them power. They just want power. They don't care what power it is. So Esau's giving them power to kill children, and they're fighting for it. The power to actually kill and murder children, and they're it's so lustful for them. Oh yeah, the power. It don't matter what power they get. It's crazy. Now I had another clip here. We'll play it real quick, and then I want to get some more precepts. Yeah. But I hope that clip there was a real good clip. Yeah.
Framework and those themes in mind. I want to take us back a century and a half And to start with H.P. Blavatsky, pictured here, perhaps in one of her most iconic and famous images, and her magnum opus, the massive 2-volume The Secret Doctrine, which first appeared in 1888. Blavatsky, for those of you who aren't familiar with her, was a contradictory and enigmatic.
And you know what? That's why whenever we teach and we do what we're doing, people in, oh, where's the women at? Where? Because they're so used to this notion that women have to be involved in everything, and women have got to teach this, and you have to be taught that, and you know, because we've been consumed by this feminist doctrine. But where has it gotten us? Where has it gotten us, man? It's gotten us to the point where people are out there now. The family is destroyed. You know, there's no structure, no real standard to anything. You could do whatever you want based upon emotion. We've gotten to the point now where it's good to be a slut. Do you know what I'm saying? This is where it's gotten us, man. Women are marching down the street, proclaiming themselves to be sluts and saying, "Don't shame me, bro." What's this all about? This is what freedom looks like. This is what it's all about. Crazy.
She was born in the Ukraine in 1831 of an aristocratic Russian family. She traveled widely and claimed to have spent at least some time studying occultism in a Tibetan monastery. She co-founded the Theosophical Society in New York in 1875, and in 1879 traveled with her colleague.
She heard that she co-founded the Theosophical Society in New York. So that New York is a very demonic place, man. And that theosophy is a lot of the elites and that they're part of that whole. They revere this woman Helena Blavatsky. You know, when it comes to that occultic knowledge, they revere Blavatsky, they revere Alice Bailey, they revere Annie Besant. And that's what these women, a lot of these women, they come into the truth, and that's what they want. They want to be in these positions where they're revered and people are looking up to them. It don't work like that over here. Okay, you want to do that, then you can stay over there when the missiles come.
Yeah, where they established the organization's new world headquarters. In her public performances, Blavatsky continually played with and off of late Victorian conventions of gender, simultaneously claiming spiritual authority in a masculine mode and spiritual power as a woman.
Right, so you hear what they said? She claims spiritual. Hold on, let's hear that again. I got to pull that back.
The 2-volume Secret Doctrine was Blavatsky's most ambitious attempt.
So these people were feminists. Listen to what they said.
Imparted to her by the mysterious Mahasters or Mahatmas in Tibet. Expressed through a symbolic language that, for followers put it, revealed and revealed ancient view of the physical universe as a manifestation or externalized.
Let's pull that back. And that's transgenderism as well. If you clock what they just said.
Attempt to convey the ancient wisdom that had been imparted to her by the mysterious Mahasters or Mahatmas in Tibet. Expressed through a symbolic language that, for followers put it, revealed and revealed ancient view of the physical universe as a manifestation or externalization of the absolute. The story of the physical universe, according to Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine, was the story of the progressive unfolding of spirit into matter. And this unfolding took place.
That's evolution, by the way.
Two primary mechanisms, both critical to the late Victorian social world. On the one hand, and the one we're most interested in today, a gendered dichotomy which was embedded in a process of inbreathing and outbreathing, and on the other hand, a racialized cycle of incarnation, manifestation, or headquarters. In her public performances, Blavatsky continually played with and off of late Victorian conventions of gender, simultaneously claiming spiritual authority in a masculine mode and spiritual.
Right, so she claims spiritual authority in a masculine mode.
Power as a woman.
And power as a divine power as a woman. So this is where all this I'm a queen, I'm a goddess, and all this is where all this comes from. It literally goes back to like Helena Blavatsky and these people, and they were incorporating all this ancient demonology, Isis and mother goddess worship and all this kind of stuff. So you ain't gotta cover that too much more. That you get the point. Okay. This was a good article as well. Right. It says the history of feminism tends to be written as a secular movement, one indifferent at best to the spiritual side of life, if not actively hostile. And while that might be true of some individual figures, most of feminist history has emerged from and alongside esoteric developments like spiritualism, theosophy, and paganism. This history is mostly the result of the fact that the development of a feminist consciousness required the interrogation and breaking free from monotheistic Abrahamic religions, which use religious doctrines to justify the political and cultural subjugation of men. So what that's telling you is that the Bible puts women in their place. So it's like, okay, we're gonna go to this paganism, we're gonna go to this spiritualism, we're gonna go to this theosophy because that uplifts the woman and makes them equal. And that's so that's where it comes from. Yeah. I wanted to get a point because they were talking about Eve. See, they mentioned Helena Blavatsky in this. Says within Christianity, the story of Eve and the introduction of sin was used to justify everything from forbidding women to be educated to denying pain relief during childbirth, as that pain was supposedly created by God as a punishment for women's transgression. Early women's activists found it wasn't effective enough to argue that women should be allowed to go to school or, my God, get some help surviving childbirth. During the second wave of the Black Plague, more women died from giving birth than from the plague itself. They found it more effective politically to attack directly the source of their oppression, religious authoritarianism. All right. So these people are just demons, man. I want to get down to this point. Often denied any position of real power in a Christian church, women instead found themselves able to lead services in more fringe sects, which had the added bonus of not being burdened with centuries of misogynistic thinking and text. The emergence of theosophy and the influence of its leader, Madame Helena Blavatsky, gave women alternatives to thinking about their place in the hierarchy. Unburdened from the sins of Eve, women like Woodhull argued against women's involuntary domesticity in the heteronormative family and instead advocated for free love and the rights of sex workers and reproductive freedom. So, as I'm saying, right, all of this stuff goes back to witches and occultists, paganry, and idolatry. Satan. When women like Woodhull and other feminists were taunted as witches, as Satanists, as demonic, they embraced these labels with pride. According to the anthropologist Catherine Roundtree, an early socialist American magazine based in Kansas that argued for women's liberation took the title Lucifer, the Light Bearer. So yes, they were on the side of the devil here. Eve was a hero bringing enlightenment. And that's funny because they also teach that the serpent was a hero too. Eve was a hero bringing enlightenment. The serpent was a truth teller. And together they fought against the authoritarian and punishing God. Yeah? Do I need to read anymore? So this is the root of everything that we're seeing right now. Right? Rebellion against the Most High. All right. Let me get what I wanted to get in the Apocrypha, man. Sirach 10. And it's pride. That's all it is pride, man. So anyone that is partaking in feminist doctrine, they're partaking in idolatry and witchcraft and wizardry. Okay. Where we at? Sirach. There you go. God is evil to, and these women, they hate God. So that's why they're gonna receive what they're gonna receive, man. Any women that's running with that feminism, they're haters of God. That's why they're feminists, and they're gonna get what's coming to them. This is the book of Sirach, the 10th chapter, and 13. Oh, sorry, verse 12. It says, the beginning of pride is when one departeth from God. You see, these women under the guise of feminism, once you start believing in feminism, you're really departing from God, because like it said, feminism is opposite to what is written in the Bible for what the Most High has intended on earth. Now these women, they really don't want to be possessions of men. They think they have some other option. Oh, it's my body, my this, my that. I get to choose. I get to do this. I get to do that. No one can't tell me nothing. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. For the beginning of pride is when one departed from God and his heart is turned away from his maker. So your heart is being turned away from the Most High and his what he wants and what he has declared, and is gone on to your own lusts, which is these other doctrines and these idolatries, these witchcrafts. Yeah. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And then that's why through feminism was come abomination, because feminism supports LGBTQ, right? Feminism is supporting abortion. Feminism is supporting the destruction of the family, right? The destruction of men. Yeah. It's destructive. It's disruptive and destructive in society, right? But feminism is making these companies a lot of money, though, right? And therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. And that's what's going to happen. There's going to be judgments coming, man. And people are going to be wondering why. Because they think that they really think they're good when they're oh, I'm a good person. We talk about pro-choice. The Lord's going to deal with you, man. Now, just to finish off, I want to bring this to light, right? This is the Center of Bioethics, and they wrote a piece called Child Sacrifice in the Western World. And I thought it was very interesting, so I thought I'll read it for you, Arkham, and the few Arkwaf that are listening. So it says this, it says, in recent studies of history and anthropology, I have found reference in many cultures to child sacrifice. Now we know that if we go back into the scriptures, the Lord warned us not to pass our seed through the fire to Molech, because this is one of the things that was being done back then by the Canaanites and other cultures as well, child sacrifice, right? It says these cultures included many far-flung groups that are distinct in geography, worldview, and mythology. A few examples include the Mayans, the Incas, the Aztecs of South America. On the other side of the world, examples are found in several cultures of the Middle East, such as the Canaanites, the Edomites, and occasionally the Hebrews. These cultures perform child sacrifice to placate or pacify a deity in exchange for continued services, such as keeping the sun in the sky or bringing rain for the coming growing season. The common factor is that the society sacrificed children for the sake of the individual and communal health and wealth. I intend to show that the majority of abortion decisions today are made for these same reasons, and that abortion is morally equivalent to child sacrifice. Okay? And then he goes into it and explains it, but I agree with that conclusion. It's the exact same thing. People are sacrificing children so they could live their life, so they could do what they want to do. And then when you really break it down, the people that's running these abortion clinics are all witches and warlocks, man, and Satanists. That's why they're doing that job. How could you do that job? How can you do that job? And it came out. A lot of these dudes are witches and warlocks, and they're taking the bodies, selling the organs, giving the organs to these pharmaceutical companies, which are alchemists, and they're using the dead bodies of the children to make medicine. No, they're making potions. And see, people don't see that. People can't. They've been so desensitized that they can't see that the use of dead bodies, and that goes back to necromancy and witchcraft. The idea of Frankenstein, like a lot of people, they'll take a heart from a pig and put it into a man, or they'll take the heart from another man, a dead person, and put it into someone that's alive. That's witchcraft. That is straight witchcraft. When they came up with that idea back in the Middle Ages, people got burnt for that. Like, what do you mean you're gonna put someone's dead organ in someone else? That's alchemy. These people are alchemists, and they're performing witchcraft under the guise of medical care. Oh, it's medicine. No, it's not medicine. So they're taking the dead bodies of babies and turning it into medicine. What do you think that is? That is wizardry. That is witchcraft. But because they got a white coat on, and they make it look all scientific. The word science just means knowledge. They're dealing with knowledge, the knowledge of wickedness, the knowledge of witchcraft, and they're passing it off as something else. Yeah, abortion clinics ain't nothing but child sacrifice. Yeah, but guess what? Do you see then how it makes sense? Because the main proponents, the main people who are pushing this child sacrifice are what? Feminists. Feminists goes back to what? Witchcraft. Witchcraft goes back to what? Idolatry. Okay? So it all makes sense if you understand. It's all just witchcraft at the end of the day. Now I want to get one more scripture, then we're going to get out of here. But you see, these are the things that we have to understand. This is a spiritual battle. It always has been a spiritual battle. Even when they claim that they're being secular and they're being atheists, that's all a lie. When you really get down to it, there really ain't no atheists. They're all witches and warlocks. They claim atheism sometimes just to throw you off the scent. Or we don't believe in God or spirits. Yes, they do. They're witches and warlocks behind the scenes. That's all lies. Now let's get Wisdom of Solomon. All this idolatry, man, it's sad. Right. This is Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter. Verse 9, it says, for the ungodly and the ungodliness and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto God. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of God they are become an abomination, and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and snares to the feet of the unwise. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. Because by turning away from the Most High and inventing these idols, what have they done? They've corrupted life. Life has been corrupted, and one of the doctrines is feminism. Feminism is a corruption. It's a corruption of life. Look what it's done to women. Look what it's done to men. It's completely destroyed the family, destroyed everything. These people are crazy. Cause nothing but conflict. Yeah. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. For the vainglory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. All right. I just want to jump down. And this is what happens when idolatry reigns, man. Verse 22. Moreover, this was not enough for them, that they erred in the knowledge of God, but whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, those so great plagues called they peace. For whilst they slew their children in sacrifices, which they're fighting to slew more, and used secret ceremonies, and made revelings of strange rites, they kept neither their lives nor marriages any longer undefiled, but either one slew another traitorously, or grieved him by adultery, so that there reigned in all men without exception blood, manslaughter, theft and dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjury, disquieting of good men, forgetfulness of good turns, defiling of souls, changing of kind, disorder in marriages, adultery, and shameless uncleanness. For the worshipping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. You see? So it all goes back to idolatry and these witches and warlocks that worship these idols, and then they promote these demonic doctrines and philosophies among the people. And our people have taken hold of this thing and they're running with it. these black women. You even got black men running with this. It's like, what's wrong with you people? You really like the idea of murdering babies? And it's like, instead of finding a way to bring people out of their thing, is they're like, oh well, people are poor, so well, why don't you put your energy towards bringing people out of poverty instead of killing children? What's wrong with these people, man? Did you ever think that maybe if you followed after the will and the word of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, money and resources to raise children wouldn't be an issue? Did you ever think that the fact that you are doing all this wickedness and evil is the reason why things are the way they are? See, the answer to everything is the Holy Scriptures. The answer to everything is following after what the Lord has said and being who the Lord made you to be and doing that. And that's what's going to bring happiness. But that's the greatest trick. The devil has managed to deceive these people and convince them to do something which is against their own interests, self-destruction. And that's all it is at the end of the day. And it's going to come to pass, because when the Lord brings judgment on these society, everyone that's taken hold of these wicked demonic doctrines and idolatries, they're going to be judged, man, and they're going to receive the fruits of their labors, which is death. And that's the bottom line. So if you're an Israelite, you need to come away from that and seek unto the way of life which is in Yahweh Shai. And the way of Yahweh Shai has got nothing to do with feminism. So if you got any feminist traits within you, you better get rid of it, because that's not of the Lord. That's not of righteousness. Point blank, period. That's of these people. You're a feminist, this is who you rolling with. That's all I need you to know. That if you're a feminist, I don't care what you say. If you are a feminist, male or female, and you believe in feminism, you roll with Baphomet. That's and you better be ready to ride with Baphomet to the very end, and you will. All right. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that out, because some people might not know. You know, this thing is deep, man. This thing, it's witchcraft, man. No doubt. That's why we say what we say about the serpent and Eve, because it was witchcraft that the serpent was given unto Eve, and it's witchcraft today. The same things happening all over again. This stuff is very spooky and very insidious. All right, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. You know, Tawada to all the Arkham that was posting all them scriptures, man. I just wanted to bring that out, man. I gotta go get some work done now. So you know, Lord willing, man. Listen, Lord willing, the Lord bring an end to all this darkness, and we won't have to be sitting here debating about this garbage anymore. Because this is we're supposed to be living, man, and instead we got to deal with this rubbish, man. That's why the kingdom's gonna be beautiful, because we won't have to be sitting down discussing these kind of things, because it's really stupid and backward to be even debating about this, man. This thing needs to just be gotten out of the way so we can actually live life in righteousness and everything, keep everything simple and good. All right. So with that, I say shalom.